World Trade Organization has warned that growth in export volumes will slow this year to 1.7%. That's compared to a rise of 2.7% in 2022. The WTO says the main factors are rising geopolitical tensions, high inflation, and the lingering effects of COVID-19. It also warns that rate hikes have resulted in financial instability. The latest forecast is higher than October's projection of 1% growth as supply chain disruptions eased, but it is still lagging behind broader global economic growth. Well, let's talk now to Coleman, a senior economist at the World Trade Organization. Coleman, welcome. Give us the executive headlines. What are the key takeaways from this report?
Well, I suppose there are two key takeaways. The first is that trade was actually surprisingly resilient in 2022, despite a slowdown towards the end of the year. In the first three quarters, trade was up 4.3% year on year. But towards the end of the year, monetary tightening in advanced economies and some of the other, the impact of high commodity prices caused growth and trade to slow abruptly in the fourth quarter, dragging growth for the year down to 2.7%. But for the most part, it was relatively resilient despite a difficult macroeconomic environment. That's a bit different. The second takeaway is that growth this year will be below subpar. It'll be 1.7%, and that's below the 2.6% average over the last 10 years. So it's not quite as bad as we feared at the time of our last forecast, when we thought that trade growth in 2023 would be around 1%. So it's a slight upgrade, but still a bit below what we'd hope.
Yeah, well, below par. And for those of us who are not distinguished economists like you, in simple terms, what does that mean for the global economy?
Well, it means that trade actually is going to be, it really depends on the regions. There's going to be quite a bit of different performances across regions. Global demand is actually going to be held back by weak imports in North America and Europe. They're declining slightly, but mostly flat. Asia, on the other hand, is going to be around growing about 2.6% on the export side and 2.5% on the import side, which means that it's above the world average. So even though it's weaker than historically speaking, Asia is still contributing, making a disproportionate contribution to the global economy going forward. Oil exporting regions like the Middle East and Africa, they have benefited in 2022 from high export revenues, and this may slow sharply in 2023 because of falling export volumes and a return to earth of high commodity prices.
I guess inevitably the report doesn't make for a cheerful reading, really. It's rather bleak, isn't it? Geopolitical tensions, inflation, high energy prices, all contributing to this trade slump, let's call it that. I mean, give us some optimism. When are we going to see some sort of light at the end of this rather long, dark tunnel?
Well, there are some signs of improvement here and there. One of the key leading indicators for world trade is export orders. These are up over the last few months, so that would seem to indicate recovering demand for traded goods in the coming months. The other is that oil prices are down compared to last year. They really peaked in the middle of the year, and especially natural gas prices in Europe. So this should provide a little bit of uplift for energy consumers.
Coleman, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for coming on the program. That's Coleman, senior economist at the World Trade Organization.
Thanks very much.